My name is Billy Williams, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Billy!
I like to say a drunk because alcoholic was too nice a word for me. And before I say any further, I want to thank each one of you for being here. But most of all, the newest person here tonight that's got the least sobriety is the most important person that's going to be here tonight. You know, it's amazing to see this many people come out and hear a drunk tell his story. That's how it is with this alcoholics. We support each other. But I came in the program not willing. But first, I want to admit, right down the street here on the corner, we used to have a meeting upstairs before it was burnt down. And down below it was a beer joint. But the beer joint closed pretty early, so. But many, many times, and I got a friend here I just met a few days ago that remembers this constable, and we've got a few that remembers Johnny Kleiman as a constable, Bo Calfee as a justice of peace, and they both of them, I've been before both of them, but Johnny was always one. There was one DPS officer here, and they rode around together, and they would see my truck invariably. They knew it really good. They would stop me, look under my seat and get my fifth of whiskey, take my keys, and set me down here on this corner till 1 o'clock when all the beer joints closed. And but they would bring my keys and tell me to go home. That was. But I'm grateful for that because many times it didn't happen that way. But I came in the program really in 1964. That's about the date now. June the 21st of 1965. I would ever bet to people just like you sitting around this room tonight for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and for a loving God that I always knew was there, because every time I get put in jail, I'd call him. Lord, if you'll just help me out of here, I'll not do that no more, And I'm grateful. I'm extremely grateful for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous because it saved my life. We are all, every one of us sitting here tonight is a miracle. And I just become a new word that's come just recently to me, and that's convicted felon. We all are. But I came in the program first in 1963, or 64. It was 64. My brother come in 63, the second time. But my drinking was started early in age. I mean, my first recollection of any the first time I ever had the privilege of getting around drinking and the alcohol was on a Halloween night one night in Richard, Texas. And I was 14 and 15, I was young, but I remember how sick I got. And I don't want to forget that. And I don't want to forget the last drunk I was on, because I got just as sick then as I did the first time. But that first time, we was at this Halloween carnival in Richard, and I was the youngest one there, but there wasn't nobody there that was old enough. But they decided we needed something to drink. The closest place that we could go was Old Washington. So we took off to Old Washington, and they bought a gallon of wine, and a fifth of whiskey. And you know, I ain't never drank nothing before in my life. I ain't never drank nothing. But I was in the back seat of that 46 Chevrolet, and I got to drinking that wine. It was good. Then I tasted that whiskey, and that was good. But I got to chasing that whiskey with that wine, and that was good. But you know, I didn't last long. I was passed out the time we got to Navasota. And I remember we had a flat. It was cold and raining, and we had a flat coming out of Navasota, and didn't have no jack. So they were some of them boys. They were pretty big, and they thought they could pick that Chevrolet, back of that Chevrolet car up, and me get something to put up under there. So that's what my job was. And it was raining, muddy, and wet. And my mama always dressed me pretty nice. I mean, I had a white shirt on, had khaki breeches. And they had me up under that car in that mud, trying to get something where we could change tires on that car. Well, that didn't work. So, but, you know, traffic then was, I mean, there wasn't none. But there was a colored man come by and stopped and had a jack, and we changed the tire. And I asked him, we done hid our whiskey and our beer, wine out, because, you know, we figured there may be a law. They did. I didn't have sense enough to do nothing. But I asked that colored man, I said, we got a little wine here if you want a drink. And you know, I didn't know that he was a preacher. And he said, no, he says, I was a preacher. He says, I don't drink. Well, I felt about that time. I remember that. But, you know, my drinking continued on. I mean, every time I drank, I got drunk. I don't know why. My brother was a couple of years older than me. Why he even carried me along. I don't understand it. I still don't. But he would let me go with him, and I mean, it was always to a beer joint. And I'd get drunk every time. But he would carry me to, we had a camp house up there close to the house, and feed me coffee, and we drank coffee. He'd give me coffee till I sobered up enough to go home. But getting back to the Halloween night, that next morning, Mama asked me, he said, son, what happened to you last night? I said, Mama, I don't know. But you know, my mama never gave up on me. She never gave up on me. I would come in at all times of the night, morning. It wasn't night, it was mornings. And Mama'd be sitting up waiting for me, praying for me. And a couple of times I like not made it because I had something run out of the road in front of me, and I hit the desk. I don't know what happened, but anyway, I wrecked my truck, my car. But you know, I love to drink. I don't know why, and I'd get sick every time. I went to, I would go to school. I always wore Justin cowboy boots. A half pint of whiskey would fit right down beside my boot. And I'd go to school with a half pint of whiskey. But that was, I had got a job for a couple of people here, kinfolk, Sissy Moratti and Dio Moratti. They came and they needed a hay hauler. This was when I was, young. And then they put a dairy in, and I still worked for them. And I found out that the best thing to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning was a good drink of whiskey. And Dio liked it too. So he kept me in whiskey, and I had a pint. I always kept in the corn crib. He had a corn crib there, and I would keep it there. And every morning I'd get up. I was going to school. I'd get up and go out there and get my horse. I always had to get a horse and go get the milk cow. But the first thing I'd do was get me a good drink of whiskey. Sip it, and it was just like butter in a cup of coffee. But I know some of y'all have heard my story. Now, Ruby just told me it's been 40 years since she's heard my story. And that was at the old Alpha Omega group. Some of you don't even know where that was. But I love to drink, and it took me a long time for me to find the program. I've worked everywhere. I've done every kind of work that a person can do. I've done it, and I was a welder's helper. I was a welder's helper when they building a viaduct coming over Houston. And when they closed the job down, when we finished the job, I had 13 welders I was taking care of on that bridge. And I'd stay up drunk all night, drinking all night. And that foreman, when I'd get there, my brother would always carry me to work. And he'd carry me out there and put me on one of them beams with a brush. And me brushing them just up and down till I sobered up enough where I could walk in beams. And you get up 40, 50 feet in the air and walking in beams, you better kind of be careful. But, I got where I was good at it. I could wrap 100 foot of welding leads over my shoulder and run down that beam just like a squirrel. But, and there was no welder there that told me, he said, Billy, I'm going to make a welder out of you. I said, no, I don't think so. And he didn't, but he tried his best, I went through every kind of job you could go through. And after I finished school, every farm boy that was raised out in the country like I was, the thing he wanted to do was go to Houston and get rich. That was what we were going to do. But I went to Houston, but I didn't get rich. I run through everything that I could run through. And they was putting in a new thing here in Conroe, and my brother was he was the insurance business there, and he was pretty well up with the bankers. Well, the president of the First National Bank was doing the hiring for this new organization that had come in there. So he got me an appointment with him, and I went and talked to him, and he said as soon as they get here and get set up and ready for start hiring really, he said, you're on the list. I said, okay. Well, I walked straight out of that office, and I looked down the street, and I seen this Marine Corps, this was 1957, Marine Corps recruiter with that pretty blue uniform on, and I said, that's what I want to do. So I went and followed him up to that courthouse, and now, in 2 days I was in San Diego, California, way faster than I wanted to be. I had never been that far away from my mama. But I I made it. I made 6 weeks through boot camp, but I didn't drink. And then after we got through boot camp and we had some, the first thing I done was get drunk. And every weekend, just about every weekend, we was out drinking somewhere. I made it through the 2 years of it. I got in on one of them 2-year hitches, and I got out, but I still had 6 years of reserve training I had to go through. But you know, I went through that 6 years, and they never did call me to go to one training unit. So I got a discharge, honorable discharge from the Marine Corps. But you know, not my oldest, but my next to the oldest brother, he had been, got in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this was in 1952, I think he got in it. He come in and he stayed sober for 5 years, and he got drunk. He started drinking it. Well, when I got out of the service in 1959, he was drinking. So we done a lot of drinking together. I mean, he lived here in Willie. Well, he worked for Exxon, Humble at that time, till they fired him. He wrecked a couple of company trucks, and they fired him. And he come to Willis and went to business, electrical business himself. And one of the first master electricians in Conroe, he was one of them. His number was 13. But we done a lot of drinking together for the next few years, and finally in 1963, well, he got back in the program, and in 1964 he started on me. And you know, I knew I might have a little problem with alcohol, but you know, it didn't really. I didn't think it was a problem. But I got a job at a rubber company down in Humble, and in August of 1963, I got married, and I've got to say, that my wife was a big inspiration in my sobriety. Perry finally got me to go to a meeting in March of 1964. I went to my first meeting, and I was living in Humble. I got married, and him and 2 more men came to Humble and picked me up and carried me to a meeting somewhere in Houston. I don't know where it was. I got very little out of it, but you know, on the way down there, you know, these drunks, they know people all up and down these highways. They stopped and picked this man up that didn't live too far from me. And when they dropped him off that night, right before they dropped me off, he said, "Billy," he said, "I'll pick you up tomorrow evening." And I said, "Okay." So he'd seen that I got to a meeting for a month. And he said, "I think you can make it by yourself." Well, I knew I couldn't make it by myself, but I knew my wife would see that I made it. So, you know, I stayed sober for 6 months. I mean, I had a good program working. I thought. But all of a sudden, I don't know why, but I decided I want to come back up here and go to work for my other brother on a ranch. He had a lot of land, a lot of cattle, and that's what I wanted to do. So I come back up here, and you know, the first thing I do, I got mixed up with my old crowd. That ain't good. And I got drunk. Off and on then for 6 months, I was stay drunk. And on June the 19th of 1965, I don't know why I had no intentions of doing it, but you know, I drove all the way to Stoneham. I was living in Richard. I drove to Stoneham and got a fifth of whiskey that I just wanted to have with me. I'd cut the hay, I had a bunch of hay on the ground, and I was going to bale hay that evening. But I'd got my haulers lined up and everything, but it was Juneteenth. And I thought that all my boys, the hay haulers, were colored boys. You know, I said, well, we're going to celebrate, let them celebrate. I was going to go get them a fifth of whiskey, just to let them drink, you know. And that's what I done. And I made it to Dobbin, 10 miles. And I done reached up under that seat and pulled out that bottle of whiskey. And you know, 5 miles further down the road, Montgomery, I mean, I didn't know. I think I stopped and got gas. I don't know. But that was that. I mean, I don't remember nothing that happened that night. Nothing. And I don't know how I got home. But when I woke up the next morning, my wife was gone. I had a 6-month-old baby, and she was gone. And I was sick. I was a sick puppy. And I had to puke. That's the first thing, you know, we got to do when we wake up, we got to puke. My wife wasn't there to turn me over, or I wouldn't be puking straight up, but that's what I done. I don't want to forget those. I don't want to forget that again. And I made it through that day. On the 20th of June of 1965, I drank one beer. And I said, this is it. But you know, my wife did come back to me, and we had 51 years of happy marriage. Had it not been for her and for a lot of people in the program, I would have never made it, because I wanted to drink. Even, you know, you get well, you get to feeling good, you get to thinking that maybe, just maybe I can drink one beer. And that's what I had done so many times before. But when I made up my mind, but that old desire stayed with me. I wanted to drink. And there was an old timer told me, he said, Billy, he said, if you'll get honest with yourself, he said, not just honest, but rigorous honest, and ask God to remove the desire to drink from you, he may just do it. He said he did me, and I had knew the man. He was drinking when I come in and out of the program. But bless his heart, I listened to that, and he was another man, because my baby was 6 months old and screaming, crying, you know, at a meeting, and that was embarrassing to my wife and me too. But he told me, he said, never let that baby keep you from going to a meeting. And from then on, you know, she went with me. I could not, because I had to go buy my beer. I was living in Richard, Texas. And I had to go buy all them beer joints. My special one was right here on 1097. I had to go buy my beer joint to get here. I could not go back by there without stopping. So many times I'd run into a place and drank one beer. That's all I'm going to. But you know, that just set off that compulsion to really drink. But you know, after Eddie told me that, he said, "Get honest with you, rigorous honest." And I did, and I tried it. And you know, I woke up one morning. I don't know how much long it was, but I had realized that I hadn't wanted to drink in a while. And I got to thinking back, and it was about the same time that he told me these things that I had the desire. But you know, I was one of those kind that I knew everything about. You know, I thought 6 months in the program I had I'd learned all there was to learn. This little grapevine here saved my life, really. Our club, Conroe Willis Club, was subscribed. We had some subscriptions. Well, I couldn't afford to buy it myself, but they, you know, if you couldn't buy one, well, you take it. So there were stories in here that I read, and I always, you know, you want to start with the funny things. And I always started back at the back with the jokes and then went frontward. But I'm grateful for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went, you know, we talk about grief and the stuff we go through when we're grieving. You know, I lost my daddy in 1970. And it goes on and on. I've lost 4 brothers, a granddaughter, a son, a wife, all of it. I've been through it. It ain't been easy, but you know, it's all because of the people just like you sitting around here, and I had that comforted me and stayed by my side. And you know, I wished I could say that I never had thought about drinking again. But you know, that's not true, because I have. That old stinking thinking will lead you to drinking if you're not careful. I haven't drank, but you know, that compulsion gets so bad. And I got a confession to make to the people on the Saturday morning meeting. Last Saturday, you know, there's times that we don't know what happened. We don't know. But I woke up pissed off at the world. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want nobody talking to me. And I just kept, I suffered it through noon, and I said, I've got to do something. So I got ready, and I went down 1502. I'd love to go to that birthday meeting down there, and I went down there. I knew them people down there would, you know, I knew them, I would mix and mingle with them, and that's really what got me through that, because, you know, we get them crazy, stinking thinking, and it's awful. I mean, until you've experienced it, and you will. But you know, one of my sponsors always told me, he said, whatever happens today to you that you think is unbearable, this too will pass. And it will. It will. It may not be in our time, but it will pass. I appreciate the you know, I've been going to Plantersville. I love Plantersville meeting because it's small and we can laugh and joke, and I've gone to more meetings. For a time I quit going to meetings. But you know, the more I go to now, the more I want to go to. And I have been fortunate enough to run up on people like Shaky. If anybody don't know Shaky, I want to introduce y'all to him back in the back. He if you can stay sober messing with him, you can do anything. You know, Steve was his sponsor. I don't know how Steve put up with him. Then he tried to claim me as a sponsor. I ain't gonna sponsor him. Then he jumped on poor old Karen. Most of you know Karen, and bless her heart, she babied him and petted him. But she ain't give him no sympathy, you know. He goes and cries on her shoulder. She won't give him no sympathy, and he gets mad, you know. But, you know, it's people like Shaky that I enjoy being around sometimes. Y'all hear that sometimes?
Both ways, he said.
The program has been so good to me. And if we don't laugh, you know, I read a story the other day in this little grapevine about laughing. You know, it's good for the belly to laugh. And I was saying, when's the last time I really had a good belly laugh? Well, you know, you stay around Shaky very long, you're gonna laugh. But you know, in 2014, I lost my wife. I put up with it for 2 years. And I said, you know, God didn't mean for me to go through life by myself. So I struck out looking for something else, you know. I really wasn't looking for no wife. I was just looking for something else. And you know where we all go when we get lonely and looking? We always go to the beer joint. So there's where I went. I was at a wedding, my nephew's wedding. It was my great nephew's wedding over here, and they had this old crazy music playing. I ain't listening to that crap. I told my nephew, I said, y'all got to do something with the music. He said, no. He said, you got to get used to it. I said, I ain't getting used to this stuff. On a Saturday night, and I went and got my truck and wouldn't have a soda to the Western Club. And you know, I had a lot of fun over at that place. I met this woman here, over there. You know, she come dancing down, strutting down there like a rooster, you know. I stepped out in front of her and we started dancing, and then the next thing we knew, we were hooked up. And you know, probably the best thing that ever happened to me because she's taking care of me for the last. I would have probably been dead. I had been having quite a bit of heart trouble, and they couldn't find, my doctor couldn't find out what's wrong. She come into my life and she said, I'm going to carry you to my doctor. And immediately he done open heart surgery on me. And I owe it. I really owe my life to her because I wouldn't be here today had it not been for her, I don't believe. And I'm grateful for it. I get pissed off, you know, and she don't do things right, but she's been good to me. And I ain't saying that I've been good to her, but when we get to that old crazy stinking thinking sometimes, we ain't good to nobody. And we don't want to be good to anybody. the program has taught me so much that I could never. You know, I left out so much of my drunken log, and that was kind of boring anyway. We drunk and get drunk and car wrecks and all this crap. You know, it's just part of drinking. I mean, you know, if we drink, we're going to get drunk, and we're going to have a wreck. And if we're lucky, we don't get killed. And I was very lucky several times. I'm going to I've got to run this by you. You know, when I was kind of new in the program, we had a step study out here at Frontier Lakes, and you know, we went through the 12 steps, and then we'd go through the traditions, and then back and forth. And you know, I thought I learned a whole lot, but you know, you think you know everything, and you don't know squat. They told me to work the steps. Well, I went down. I didn't have no trouble with the first one or the second one. We came to believe that power greater than the steps. And then on down, well, I preach skipping the steps. You know, if you didn't like it, to giving you trouble, skip it. It's gone. I didn't have no trouble admitting to God. But, you know, I didn't have no defects of character. No shortcoming. And I didn't have to make no list of you know, because I hadn't hurt nobody. So I skipped that one. And you know what happened? That was one time I just skipped right on over to the beer joint. And it took a while before they got it through to me that you need to take them in order. You know, how can you take one before you take 10? I mean, you know, you got to take them in order. But that wasn't my theory. That when you know, I knew everything about the program. And it come down to it, I didn't know nothing. But, you know, I have found out that if I don't drink, I don't get drunk. I don't go to jail. I haven't been to jail, and I did too. I worked 15 years down there at Montgomery County Jail. I loved every minute. I would work in boys, them inmates that would come in there, and most of them was just minor, first, second, third DWI, and that's who I was working. And I had one little Mexican boy that came in and worked for me, had a DWI, and he come back and he got out on bond and got some probation, and he come back again. And he come back the 5th time. He said, "Mr. Billy," he said, "you got to help me." Well, at that time, you know, you could pull a little punches down there with the judge. I said, "You know, I've tried to help you 5 times. I've tried to help you with something about your drinking." I said, "There ain't nothing I can do now." And you know, he couldn't. That last one, they wouldn't let him come work with me no more. And but he was looking at a life sentence on his 5th DWI. Now what he got, I don't know. But it wasn't uncommon then to get a life sentence for 5 DWIs. I'm going to wind this up. Some of you may not like it. But you know, if we can't laugh about things that's in the program, and I get all my jokes from the grapevine, uh, the stewardess, she was on this flight, working this plane. She had one drunk in the front of the plane and one in the back, and they were both of them hitting on her, you know. So it got down to the last, the plane was fixing to going down, landing, and she was back at the back with the drunk in the back, and he handed her a note. He said, "This is my address." So she carried it up there to the front and handed it to him. She said, "Now don't be late."
Don't be late, Billy. Billy, how old are you? 81?
87.
That man is 87 years old, and he still gets up and participates in this recovery. He still hops up on a damn horse, stacks firewood, because I see him on Facebook, and the man is in meetings working with people everywhere. 87 years old. That just shows you this is it's a lifetime deal. It's not a one time we get cured on there. Let's give him another hand. And your son's back there. We are here at the Willis Primary Purpose Group. We are on the CHIP system. We offer chips to celebrate links to sobriety. The first one is a desire chip. It's an outward token of an inward commitment to our way of life one day at a time. Does anybody need a desire chip? Anybody got a wet one for a dry one? I hope not. On there. The rest of them are earned chips. We got 1, 2, and 3 months, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 18. None? Anybody celebrating a year to how many?
8 months.
8 months. Go, I love you, baby. That is amazing. Maria come here to this group right after we moved in here and come in here, and she's one of the ones we watched the lights come on. And she's been a part of this group and very involved in every part of it on there, and we are so grateful for you, Maria. Please keep coming back. We love you on there. Anybody got... anybody celebrating a year today? How about the month of March? We got a new month coming up. All right, Jeff Chapman, you better put your name on the board. Let's go, Jeff. All right, we're going to roast and toast your ass. Ain't no mercy come the end of this month. Okay, may I see a show of hands who have worked the 12 steps who are willing to be a sponsor? Man, there's a whole bunch of sponsors there. Is anybody in here in need of a sponsor? It's too bashful to ask. Please do not leave here without at least a temporary sponsor. Anybody that sponsors themselves has a fool for a sponsor. That's the truth. I tried it. Does anyone have any AA related announcements? We got one here. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I was gonna, my name's Jim, and I'm an alcoholic. Open Door Group of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah, there you go.
Second anniversary celebration, Saturday, March 8th. First Baptist Church at 460 Fisher Street in New Waverly from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
All right, that's next Saturday, ain't it, Jim? Yeah, sure. Yeah. And next week, we got Bill Sullivan coming from the Alano Club. Is that right, Kelly? It's going to be coming out and speaking for us next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday night. Also, we got a group conscious coming up this Monday night. We got a bunch of stuff on the board we're going to be going over. So if you want to be a part of this group or just participate, please come out. And also, we got a sober camp out. It's for the Conroe Willis area. Anybody's welcome to come. There's a flyer up there, and there's some flyers back there on them shelves you can take. We're going to be doing a Guadalupe float trip. If you want to book a campsite, you better book it now. There won't be any left. They may be already gone. I'm not sure, but you can check. You can go on their website and book one. It's going to be the same weekend Spirit of the River's going on, too. So Spirit of the River's going on right down the road. So it's going to be a bunch of sober fun. We're going to take over the whole river on any other AA related announcements?
No.
Anybody other AA related announcements? We're going to get your ass on that tube. You can get up on that horse, you can get up on that tube. Okay, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our tradition, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities, and who you see here, when you leave here, let it stay here. Donna, was he embarrassing you? You can get up with us.
I don't know how we're gonna do it.
That's all right. Billy, you gonna take us out?
Yeah. Who keeps it sober one day at a time?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back to the works that you work in. Billy, come in there. You kept from laughing. I'd like you if you can't laugh or something. Hey, oh, sorry.